Good afternoon. This is Stephen Hernandez with Stephen Hernandez's Nonprofit Fundamentals and Stephen Hernandez's Nonprofit and Relationship Fundamentals on Anchor FM. Today, I want to talk about a very difficult topic, a very intense topic. So definitely trigger warnings here for those who are listening, because we're going to be talking about predatory vulnerability. It's a term that I've either in my own mind I have come up with, or I maybe heard it before. But the topic today is predatory vulnerability, and by that I mean it is a concept that someone will purposely disclose something with the intention of forcing a feeling of intimacy. Because a concept I always want to stress with the relationship videos and lessons that I share is that knowledge builds intimacy. The more you know about one another, the closer you feel. You build that sense of intimacy. But in the case of predatory vulnerability, oftentimes what is being disclosed is done in a targeted way, a purposeful way, to create a sense of intimacy that may not be real. So unfortunately, this primarily seems to come from men towards women or femmes. And as someone mentioned to me, women are socialized when they're presented with the spectacle of pain. Is there, your heart goes out to the person. You feel bad for them. You want to support them. You want to give them emotional, sexual, financial support. And the predatory person, that's what they're trying to do. So let me sketch this out a little bit more. So this is someone who will present something to you, and with the design to trap you. So I want to give you an example. This is from someone that I knew, someone I had worked with, and I'm going to it's story time, and then I'm going to kind of really relay what the impacts could have been. So this person, is a young woman, was well on her way in terms of completing her education, and like many stereotypical things, it started at a party, and she met this beautiful, that's her term. She met this beautiful man he looked like a Greek god, and he was a resident. He was very close to becoming a full-fledged doctor. So he was on his way through medical school, or perhaps he was a resident or already. Looked like a Greek god. Was a doctor. So boom, 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 checking off all these boxes. So they met. They had a connection. They had a sexual encounter, and everything was fantastic on that first day. Then the red flags started to wave very quickly the morning after. She woke up, and he was doing drugs. Now, whatever you want to do with your own life is your own thing, but through her, because he was a doctor, and it was very evident that not only did he have narcotics that were from outside the hospital, but things that he mentioned to her that he had stolen from the hospital as well. Now, this person who was relaying the story to me was very straight edge. So drug use or anything like that was very much not something that she did in her own life, and was not comfortable around that. So she was thrown by that. She kind of questioned him on it, and his response was, and here we go into the predatory vulnerability. It was like, like, I take these drugs. My job is so stressful. If you had a real job like mine, so again, like that narcissism, that predatory behavior, where she was in the liberal arts, and so he was kind of putting her down in the sense of you don't really know what it's like to have a stressful career like I do. I have to have these things to cope through my day. And so they tried to get to know one another more, and then very shortly on, he would say or do things that, again, builds that predatory vulnerability. And it has the appearance that, well, he's being very open with me. He's being very vulnerable with me. But if you scratch the surface, you will note that it's really not designed to do that. So one of the things, and again, she was quite young at the time. She was like in her early 20s. And she was very proud of saying that she considered herself, pretty experienced in the bedroom or whatnot. But one of the things that he did that really threw her, and is, I think, a great hallmark of what we're talking about, is, I think, her second or third time together, he said, just so you know, I really don't think, you're ever going to be able to satisfy me sexually. I'm a sex addict. So, don't feel bad if I can't get off with you. Like, I just don't think you're going to be able to do that for me because I'm a sex addict. Now, I think if you're outside that situation, you'd be like, oh, what the hell? But the predatory vulnerability is what he's disclosing something, quote unquote, but then he puts the onus on her. And then here's the 1-2, right? The 1 is, I'm a sex addict. The 2 is, well, since you're so lame, since you're so vanilla, you would never be able to satisfy me. So obviously, we need to bring more people in. We need to have chemsex, or to involve narcotics or other things to kind of heighten this situation. He went so far to present her with a list of things in the bedroom that that she could do to help the situation. Now, as I said, this person considers herself pretty experienced, but some of the things on the list, she was like, okay, like, I've always wanted to try that. I'm like, well, that's not something I would really seek out, but okay, I'm willing to try this. But there's things on the list that she had no idea what they were. Some things that she felt like very uncomfortable with. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that whenever she tried to express, like, oh, I feel nervous about public speaking or whatnot, he would just blow her off. He didn't want to hear it. She could not be emotionally vulnerable to him because he wasn't interested in that. What he was interested in was presenting himself as this hardworking, stressed out guy who needed all these extreme sensations just to get through his day. But that's not the purpose. The predatory vulnerability is designed to make you feel like, I have to give, I have to give, I have to give. Because, this poor person is, is really going through a lot. But, and this really is the crux of what we're talking about here, is the danger with that. If you allow yourself to fall victim to this predatory vulnerability, it means you can never have a bad day. If you place yourself in the position where you need to be the fun one, you need to be the funny one, everything about their happiness is in your hands. That means you can never complain. You can never have an off day. You're saying to them, you're agreeing with them, I should say, that, if the guy said, well, you're never going to be able to get me off because, that's just, you're just not going to be able to do that. If you accept that challenge, you're literally putting your body on the line to try and do something for them that they're already saying, well, like, I'm not going to try to do that for you. I'm not interested in that. That's not what that's not what I'm here for. And so eventually, the person who's trying to meet these predatory needs, they're just strip-mined, right? You give of yourself, of your soul, of your body to try and feed them in a literal sense, or their emotions, their sexuality, and you can't possibly fill that hole because you just can't. It's that you can't do that for someone else, but they'll just take and take and take from you. And it's something that unfortunately happens quite a bit. It's just another example of toxic relationships. So just to conclude this, this person I was working with saw that was starting to happen, that she was compromising on things that she felt very strong about. Like, she was not about the drug life at all. Like, that was not something she wanted to do. But he kept pressuring her and said, well, in order for you to kind of like really be with me, like, you need to do this. There were sexual things that he wanted to do that she was very uncomfortable with, that he kept pressing on. And this is the really important thing I want to stress. And so when someone is being predatory with their vulnerability is always presented as like, well, if you can't deal with this, you're the lame one. Like, oh, well, I thought you were cool. I thought you would understand. You know, but everything they're doing is extractive of you. Well, if you're not going to have a threesome, where we're all coked out, well, guess you're pretty lame. Guess you can't hang with me, right? But what was he willing to do for her? Nothing. He would give nothing back. So there was no exchange there. There was only extraction. And she was sensing, she saw that early on, that this person was this, drug dealing, predatory, sex addict, quote unquote guy, was not going to be healthy for her at all. And she cut it off because she saw herself starting to subsume her own morality, her own personal goals for this person who just wanted to take from her. And perhaps what it should come as no surprise to anyone who's listening to this, apparently he was shortly busted for stealing drugs from the hospital he worked at. He was fired and is probably not on his way to becoming a doctor. So just to recap, if someone is presenting you with their pain, with their issues, perhaps really early on, when you feel that the level of intimacy doesn't warrant that yet, be aware of that. 2, if it's done in a way where it's like predicated in exchange. Well, I'm a raging alcoholic, so if we're gonna have fun, I expect you to be drunk all the time with me. Or I'm a thrill seeker, and so we need to do like dangerous things so I feel alive. Not knocking anyone who's likes to live on the edge. I'm just using this as an example, where you're constantly feeling pushed beyond your boundaries in a way that makes you feel like you're compromising your morals or putting yourself or your family members or what have you at risk. And it's always tied to something that they will get out of it, but they are unwilling to do anything for you. So if you compromise and you engage in risky sexual behavior, but then they won't watch the Netflix series that you want to watch because that's lame. What are you getting out of this, right? A relationship should be like an exchange, give and take, and some compromise. Predatory vulnerability, one of the hallmarks is they're extracting and they refuse to do something in return. Anything that makes them feel truly vulnerable, they refuse to do. So again, big trigger warning in this. This is something, especially as we continue on into what will be 2021. I know a lot of folks are lonely out there right now. Please be aware of that. Be careful when someone's doing these kinds of things. Watch out for that. On the comments below, I would like you to list the things. Have you seen this? Have you seen someone do these kinds of things where they're saying or doing actions that are eliciting a fake response? Definitely would like to hear how you've experienced this or seen that used against people. What are some defenses that you've used to protect yourself? As always, not an easy subject to talk about, but an important one. Again, my name is Stephen Hernandez. This has been Stephen Hernandez's Nonprofit Fundamentals. This has been part of my marriage and relationship series. I hope that you enjoyed it. I would love to keep doing more topics like these. If you have something in particular you would like me to discuss, just let me know. You can definitely subscribe to the channel right here on YouTube. This is also being recorded for my podcast, which is Stephen Hernandez's Nonprofit and Relationships Fundamentals on Anchor FM and wherever pods are cast. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. I truly appreciate that. And in addition, I also share additional resources like this on Instagram. And I'm Stephen Hernandez 875 on Instagram. Thank you again so much for listening. I hope that you got something out of this. I truly appreciate all my listeners. Thank you so much, and take care.